What did the protesters want for demand number 5? Jenny Durkan to resign. Well, Jenny Durkan's not resigning, but Jenny Durkan has said she is not going to seek a second term for election. So I'm just wondering when Andre Taylor and Ari Hoffman are going to announce their candidacies for running for mayor of the city of Seattle. There's a couple other people I could snarkily say I'm wondering when they're going to announce their, and I realize those two are like that on the spectrum. But this would not shock me to see this on either side. I don't know who would be shocked by this news. It's certainly been my view, and I've editorialized that Jenny Durkan is probably, like, if you go to the top 50 or top 100 cities by population in the United States, is quite possibly the least popular mayor in those cities. There may be somebody less popular than her, but darn it, then you are really trying, and we salute you. So the reason that I say that is the political right's mad at her, the political left's mad at her, the centrists are mad at her, the protesters are mad at her, the police are mad at her, the federal government's mad at her, everybody's mad at her. I will say that she has put on a relatively brave face through all of this, and we have a video that we've prepared. The video's about 5.5, 6 minutes long, so bear with it through the video, but we would like to call this our memory roll of Jenny Durkan. Memories.
Jenny Durkan, please repeat after me. I, Jenny A. Durkan.
I, Jenny A. Durkan.
Swear that I possess.
Swear that I possess.
All the qualifications.
All the qualifications.
Prescribed in the Seattle City Charter.
Prescribed in the Seattle City Charter.
And the Seattle Municipal Code.
And the Seattle Municipal Code.
For the position of mayor.
For the position of mayor.
The rise in homelessness comes when the West Coast economy is booming, pulling in more people. In Seattle, tech companies like Amazon have brought in thousands of people earning high salaries.
And now they're going to have a passport to Seattle. A passport to Seattle. And we're here in Rainier Beach because of the activism of these students demanding equality and equity and saying we deserve a way to get to our school fairly. We're going to go get a hockey team. Simple thing. All we have to do is sell Seattle, right?
And how do you do that?
We do that, the fans do it. It's all about the fans in Seattle. We already showed by the way we sold out the tickets, but these are businessmen who are looking at how this franchise is going to affect the hockey across the country and in Canada.
Seattle's Licton Springs neighborhood is a little cleaner tonight because of a group of volunteers. You see them right there working really hard. Residents and businesses in the area have complained about dirty needles and trash left behind by substance abusers living in the neighborhood's homeless encampment. So today, a few dozen people, some who were once homeless themselves, came out to clean things up. Volunteers say the city hasn't made enough progress in addressing homelessness.
Yes, the mayor's office announced a plan to sell 3 plots of land known as the Mercer Mega Block, located between 9th Ave and Aurora, for a reported $143 million. The mayor's office says the deal will generate $300 million in taxpayer benefits.
And thank you, Councilmember Mosqueda, for your continued devotion and commitment to making Seattle a more affordable and inclusive city that you share with many of the council members who have pushed very hard for these kinds of investments. In the last 2 years, together, we have taken bold actions to make our progressive values real in people's lives. Because of our shared actions and commitment, I can tell you today the state of our city is strong and resilient.
Seattle leaders are now grappling over how and when to increase the supply of market rate and affordable housing.
So laundry, this is one of the sleeping rooms.
In West Coast cities, voters have approved more than $8 billion on affordable housing and other homelessness programs since 2015.
Now is they're trying to box us in. So they're basically, what SPD is doing right now with their bikes is they are pushing the people into the flashbang grenades. SPD is actively pushing the people into the line of fire.
How long do you think Seattle in those few blocks looks like this?
I don't know. We could have the summer of love.
Well, tell that to the police, who was supposed to be in that precinct, though. But I understand your sentiment, Mayor.
Let's get right to your answers. When asked, do you approve or disapprove of the job Jenny Durkan is doing as mayor of Seattle, 36% of those asked approve, a quarter disapprove. When asked if she should stay in office, 46% say yes.
That legal observer has been pushed down. We have that on camera. Legal observer pushed down. Flashbangs are going. Fireworks going off. Ooh, it's spicy.
Meantime, Mayor Jenny Durkan in Seattle is responding tonight to a letter from the Seattle Human Rights Commission calling for her to resign.
Seattle Mayor Jenny Durkan will not seek re-election. Good morning, I'm Mimi Jung. We're following breaking news.
Durkan made this decision, I am told, within the last couple of weeks after discussing it.
Members of the City Council, my fellow elected officials from around the state, veterans, community leaders, members of the clergy, tribal members, my cabinet members, and my family and friends. Good morning.
Good morning.
It is so great to get out of City Hall.
Ironic.
Truly an ironic statement that she made in February 2020. Both, one thing we can't begrudge her is the sense of hope that 2020 and what 2020 was going to bring in February. But also that was her intro about it was so good to get out of City Hall with the laughter. And big thanks to some folks that helped me pull that video together again, like Jenny Durkan resigned, we need something. It's an interesting history, right, when you look back. Some of the things that jump out at me is one of the things that she talks about in February of 2020, Mayor Durkan, is progressive values. She used these words, our progressive values. And I'm like heard that and forget everything that happened from May 30 forward, really June 1 forward. I'm like, wait, what? What do you mean progressive values? Personally, I feel Jenny Durkan won because she was more of a centrist, and I felt that people in the city of Seattle were getting tired of the hard pull left. So just this whole thing of like labeling herself a progressive just was like, what are you talking about? And there were some policies that we know are completely failed under her. The homelessness problem, the issue for the people that are unhomed in our city is still this huge problem. Tonight, the people that call Cal Anderson home, the unhomed there are literally in terror. I have had, they're coming now. Wait a minute, no, they're not. They're coming now, right? Like all flipping day today. And, what the word is SPD and some agitators that are kind of aligned with the Seattle Police Department are, if you forgive the vernacular, they're rattling the cage, right? They're going there and they're kind of, hey, we're gonna scare the unhomed. Don't forget, when the Seattle police did a sweep in August at Cal Anderson, they, as the unhomed were watching their stuff getting thrown into trash dumpsters, some Seattle police officers took the food that mutual aid had collected, and instead of going, okay, this is the food for the unhomed, here you go, we're literally eating the food in front of them. It's cruel, it's dystopian. That happened under progressive Mayor Jenny Durkan's watch. There's another thing that I want to call out. There's actually a couple of things. But the next one I want to call about is this mega block, this Mercer sale, the mega block of $143 million. So what the city of Seattle did was they took this property that the city owned. Now, when I say the city owns, what that means is We, the people, the residents of Seattle, you owned that property. Instead of developing it for the unhomed, instead of turning it into a park, instead of turning it into some community resource, they sold it for $143 million. And under the banner of that money will create $300 million of value for the city. And part of that was some of that money was going to go, not all $143 million, but a chunk of that money was going to go into the BIPOC communities in South Seattle. All they had to do to get access to that money was submit a plan or a study to the city. And so people submitted plans and studies to the city. And guess what the city did? The city does what they always do. They just sat on the plans that were submitted. Nothing moved forward. Do you know how much of that $143 million and then the slice of it that was earmarked to go to BIPOC communities went to BIPOC communities? Zero. None. Not 1 cent. And then what the city did was, under Mayor Durkan's direction, was they yanked that money back. Because they said, well, we haven't spent a penny of it. So why should we continue to keep this on the table? And then cynically, in the 2021 budget, they popped $100 million in there, again, for BIPOC communities. But the BIPOC community leadership is going, you already promised this. Not only that, you're not even giving us $100 million. You just took money away that you wouldn't allocate to us, even though we did what you asked us to do, and now you've thrown it into this other program. And all we have to do is submit a study and a plan, and you'll release the money to us. You see where this is going? Another thing that happened on Jenny Durkan's watch on the issue of affordable housing is 88% of Seattle's residential areas that are zoned residential are zoned for single-family homes. It is very challenging in Seattle, even if you want to put in, say, an ADU. It's gotten easier, but if we go to the beginning of her terms, it was near impossible. And what has been built in the 12% of land that was dedicated to having high-density housing are very, very small condos, very, very small apartments, mostly luxury condos, mostly luxury apartments, no parking spaces attached to them. And they're unaffordable. And not only are they unaffordable, but now, because of COVID, the residents that live in those condos and apartments are literally fleeing the city. And rent is depressed 20%. Now, that's a whole separate topic, and we're going to get into that probably on Thursday. Full stop here. The issue of affordable housing has just been a disaster in Seattle. It's not fully Jenny Durkan's fault, because the mayors before her have been kicking this can down the highway. They make a lot of kind of, hey, we're doing this and we're doing that, but then nothing really comes of it. You know, we got the NHL. Great. We got the NHL and we're rebuilding Key Arena. I'll have to see Key Arena after it's rebuilt and COVID has been figured out. I will say this. I've been in other stadiums in the country, and before, let me put it this way. I went to a Sonics game. We still had the Sonics, and I know that's a long time ago, and I'm in Key Arena. And I sat in Key Arena, watched the Sonics game, and I was like, I don't understand what the problem is with Key Arena. Seriously, I was like, I don't understand what the problem is with Key Arena. Then I went to Houston, and I went to the new arena where the Rockets play, and I can't remember the name of that particular arena. They had built the new one. And when I got into that arena, then I was like, man, Key Arena is an outdated, awful, uncomfortable pit with terrible seats and terrible views of what's going on and watching a game. It is awful. We had a private investor that was like, I will pay for most of the stadium. Most cities don't get that. Most cities have to write big fat checks to get stadiums built. This dude was like, I'm willing to build a stadium down where all the other stadiums are. Key Arena can just go to, like be a concert venue. Oh no. Like so typical flippin' Seattle. Again, not all that's on Jenny Durkan. Now let's fast forward to May 30. And what happened then on the Western Barricade on June 1 through June 7th. And to this day, and we put this in our story that we have on malcontentment.com, we put this on our story, that we don't know to this day who gave the order to leave these precincts. We know this. Jenny Durkan says she didn't do it. Carmen Best said she didn't do it. So then who did it? Because this becomes a big question. And I know that some people have floated around unsubstantiated that it was SPOG leadership that was like, well, forget it, we're pulling out. But if that's the case, that is an incredible failure of leadership on Jenny Durkan's part, and at the time, Chief Carmen's Best part. And if Jenny Durkan can't get in front of the camera and even say who in her police department gave the order, that is a breakdown in leadership in a city at a time when we desperately needed leadership. And what we saw was, and this ties back, see how I tied that together with the court case, right? What we see with the contempt filing that came in today, or the contempt decision from the federal court, is the federal court oversight continues to see the heavy hand coming down from the Seattle Police Department on protesters trying to exercise their First Amendment rights. So Seattle's going to get a new mayor on November 2nd, 2021. Buckle your seatbelt, Seattle, because it's going to be a bumpy ride. And with that, we're going to roll our first